Some years just kind of come and go. But others grab a nation by the shoulders and completely change its direction forever. 1915 was definitely one of those years. It was like a pressure cooker of contradictions. In just 12 months, all the big forces of the 20th century, we're talking war, technology, prejudice, progress, they all collided, and in doing so, forged the America we live in today. So let's dive into the year that really set the course for a century of American life.
Right at the start of the year, this slide just nails the central conflict. On one side, you have what America wanted more than anything, to stay out of it, to have this protected neutrality from the Great War that was tearing Europe apart. But the reality? Well, the reality was a world completely engulfed in flames. And as we're about to see, those flames were getting dangerously close to leaping right across the ocean. So this tension, it created a nation of just profound contradictions. The political atmosphere was electric, with the whole country being pulled in completely opposite directions all at once.
President Woodrow Wilson found himself walking the most dangerous political tightrope you can imagine. He called it the double wish. See, the American people were furious about German aggression, especially at sea. They wanted action. But, and this is a huge but, that very same public was terrified of getting dragged into the slaughterhouse that was happening in Europe. It's a pattern that we've seen echo through American foreign policy ever since, right? This desire to be tough and decisive, but without paying the ultimate price. And figuring out that impossible puzzle, well, it was going to define his entire presidency.
And then, just like that, in a single afternoon, a distant war became a very personal American crisis. It was an external shock so profound it just shattered any illusion that America was safe. On May 7th, the British ocean liner Lusitania was torpedoed and sunk by a German U-boat. Now, what's really fascinating here is that second bullet point. Germany's whole justification for the attack was that the ship was basically a military target, carrying 173 tons of ammunition for Britain. But for the American public, they didn't care about that. All they saw was that last number, nearly 1,200 people gone.
And this is the number that changed everything, 128. That wasn't some abstract statistic. It was 128 American stories, 128 families suddenly plunged into grief. This number made the war deeply personal. It wasn't over there anymore, it was right here, in American homes.
The pressure on Wilson became immense. You had pro-war hawks like the former president, Teddy Roosevelt, who were just savage. He called Wilson's cautious, diplomatic approach abject cowardice. For guys like Roosevelt, the sinking was an act of war, and anything less than immediate military action was just unacceptable.
But here's the kicker. The pressure was coming from the other side too. Wilson's own Secretary of State, William Jennings Bryan, a famous pacifist, actually resigned. And why? Because he thought Wilson's diplomatic protest letters to Germany were too aggressive, that they were pushing the nation into a war it didn't want. So get this, Wilson is being slammed for being too weak and too warlike at the exact same time. Talk about an impossible spot.
But the pressure wasn't just coming from overseas. While America was wrestling with its role in the world, it was also fighting a war on two fronts right here at home, a battle between the forces of progress and the forces of reaction. I mean, look at this. This is the face of progress in 1915. An incredible 25,000 women marching down Fifth Avenue in New York City demanding the right to vote. The government had actually rejected a suffrage amendment earlier that year, but the momentum on the streets, well, that was undeniable. This was a nation looking forward.
And then, in the most jarring contrast imaginable, you have this happening at the very same time. The absolutely horrific saga of Leo Frank, a Jewish factory superintendent in Georgia. After the governor commuted his death sentence because of serious doubts about his guilt, a mob, and we're talking a mob that included prominent local citizens, took matters into their own hands. They abducted him from his prison cell and lynched him. And this really shows how all these events were connected. Earlier in the year, the hugely popular but deeply racist film The Birth of a Nation premiered, which basically glorified the KKK. It fanned the flames of prejudice. Then, the Frank lynching spurred the Jewish community to create the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL. And just a few months after that, the second Ku Klux Klan was officially reborn on Stone Mountain. The battle lines for the century were literally being drawn.
But, and this is so important to see, even in this incredibly dark period, things weren't simple. There were victories.
The Supreme Court actually struck down grandfather clauses, which were these sneaky legal tricks Southern states used to stop Black Americans from voting. So even as mob violence was happening, crucial legal battles for civil rights were being fought and won.
Meanwhile, another force was reshaping America, one that really didn't care about politics or prejudice, and that was the relentless, unstoppable engine of technology and industry.
Can you just imagine the magic of this moment? Alexander Graham Bell is in New York. He speaks into a machine and he's heard instantly by his assistant all the way across the country in San Francisco. In that single moment, the continent just shrank. The world got smaller, more connected, and undeniably more modern.
And nothing symbolized this new modern age more than the automobile. I mean, when the 1 millionth Model T rolled off Henry Ford's assembly line, it wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of mass production, of efficiency, of a future where freedom and mobility were actually available to the average person.
But this modern world, it came at a brutal, brutal cost. On July 24th, a steamship called the SS Eastland, which was chartered for a company picnic, just rolled over in the Chicago River. 844 people were killed, and among the dead were 22 entire families. It was this horrific industrial age tragedy, and a terrible reminder that progress and peril often go hand in hand.
So, when you weave all these different threads together, the global conflict, the social battles at home, the technological leaps, and the human tragedies, you arrive at a point of no return. By the end of 1915, America's path for the rest of the 20th century was, for all intents and purposes, set in stone.
So, what's the bottom line? 1915 triggered three massive, irreversible shifts. First, the old idea of American isolation was dead. Intervention on the world stage was now inevitable. Second, those deep social and racial divisions hardened, setting the stage for a century of conflict and the fight for civil rights. And third, America's technological and industrial engine was firing on all cylinders, cementing its destiny as a modern superpower.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. All the events of 1915 forced a reluctant nation to confront a huge fundamental question. What is America's role and responsibility in the world? It's a question they were debating in town halls and in the White House over a century ago. And when you look around at everything going on today, you have to ask yourself, is that a debate that has ever truly ended?